Inhumans live in the deep mountains. There live those who are close to the gods, who sometimes get angry and bare their fangs. They practice in the land of divine spirits and pass on their power and knowledge further. People called them mountain ascetics. Goki smelled death. Long ago, the little animal she fed disappeared, and cats leave people so as not to show them their death. These words surfaced in her memory. And then she smelled the old man in front of her, and he turned to her, demanding food because he was very hungry. Goki told him that she had been waiting for the old man to die for a long time, and the old man laughed in response. Zenki was cutting up the carcass of a killed boar. Now Goki understood what that strange sound was coming from the depths of the forest. The old man asked Zenka how long he would have to wait for the meat. Zenki was surprised that at his age the old man still ate meat, although he looked quite cheerful without it. The old man called him a fool and said that people do not live long without food, and he would soon die. Goki thought that she had worried for nothing. A man with such an idiotic laugh won't die so easily. She handed the old man a cup of water, offering him a drink, and told him to be quiet so that he would not choke, to which the old man demanded that the girl not treat him like an old man. Goki noticed that he was getting decrepit before her eyes. His arm was thin and shaking as if it was about to break. But just recently he was different. They met at war, and what the old man did was beyond the power of man. He was a true genius warrior. Osborne asked the demons what their names were and why they continued to do evil. Then she replied that demons have no names and they do evil only because they want to. Osborne said that he would then give her a name. It seemed like some kind of nonsense to her. He gave the male demon the name Zenki because he was in the vanguard, and he called her Goki because she helped from the rear. Osborne thought these names sounded pretty good. That's how they met, and Goki spent a lot of time with Osborne and Zenki. Oddly enough, the new names gave me a lot of strength. They changed by living next to people. But 2 years ago, this life changed. Osborne's student accused his teacher, because of which all his glory went to dust due to the crimes committed. Osborne was noticed by the powers that be and sent into exile. And now he lives out his last minutes in the company of 2 demons deep in the mountains. Suddenly, Goki noticed that something had disturbed the old man. Osborne noticed that the clouds in the sky were gathering, and Goki reminded him that the weather in the mountains was changeable, to which the old man asked her to wish him luck. He slowly walked towards the forest, and when he passed by Zenka, he asked Osborne where he was going. The old man said that he had a dream that told him that he would die today, and therefore they should prepare. Zenki decided that Osborne was joking, because just a couple of days ago he had been cheerful and full of life. Osborne stubbornly repeated that he would die, but noted that it was not the end. He declared that this body of Yakuazunu was finished, but his soul would not perish. At that moment, lightning flashed in the sky. The powerful discharge sent all 3 flying into the air. Goki landed on the ground, avoiding damage. If the old man had not used his staff as a lightning rod, he would have received a direct hit. However, Osborne was the first to move, and she believed that the old man would not give in to death so easily. Goki saw some movement in the sky. This powerful lightning even broke tree trunks. Zenki looked up with concern. Among the clouds he saw some kind of magical formation, but he could not determine who it was. Osborne calmly said that there were quite a lot of them and they sensed his imminent death. But now was not the time to think, and Goki and Zenki had to run. Goki belatedly saw that a huge magical energy was approaching them from the sky, and it was too late to dodge. There was a danger of receiving a direct hit. At this moment, Osborne quickly cast a spell. A protective dome of mana saved everyone from certain death. The old man called out to Goki and Zenki. Having thanked them for everything, he said that now they were free to do whatever they wanted. Osborne added that he would die today, but not at the hands of a demon. Zenki and Goki watched as Osborne's body literally burst into flames. Zenki ordered Goki to take Osborne and run to the top of the mountain while he held them off. The girl, supporting the old man under the arms, led him along the path up the mountain. Zenki ordered the demon to show himself. The demon that appeared from the lightning accused the Red Devil of betrayal and ordered him to get out of the way. Zenki told him to shut up, they would hardly be able to take the old man's life. Another demon appeared and declared that they would kill him today and become the one and only strongest demigods of all time. It all happened quickly, but Zenki said that if they posed a threat to Osborne, he would kill them all. Zenki was determined and did not move out of the way of the 2 demons. The horned one exclaimed that the red demon was no match for the 2 of them. Then Zenki suggested to check it out and ordered them to attack. People in the valley saw lightning strike the top of the mountain with incredible force. The demons were chasing Osborne. The old man told Goki that if she did nothing, they would catch up with them. He promised to take care of everything, and she should let him go. Goki rudely told him to shut up Even though he was half dead, he still liked to chatter. She was determined and turned to face her pursuers. Tired of running away. She had a gun and that was worth something. Goki was ready to accept the fight. A huge monster appeared in front of her. Without delay, he rushed into the attack. Osborne watched Goki's actions with concern. He warned the girl that monsters were coming from behind her. This one looked like a bird with a flat beak. He threw poisonous saliva towards Goki with his long tongue. The monster continued to spit out poisonous liquid. Goki assessed the danger of these water bubbles and decided that it was serious. The belly and cheeks of this amazing monster swelled to monstrous proportions. Goki got tired of this circus and got ready to use her spear. She ordered the ugly creature to stop spitting. Since her words had no effect, she pierced the monster with a magic spear. Goki told those kappas to get out of here. The comrades of the slain monster looked sadly at the headless corpse of their colleague and hastened to retreat. Goki looked with alarm at the powerful lightning discharge in the direction where Zenki remained. She couldn't understand why he was taking so long to deal with these two demons. When together they were the same rank as the bunch of monsters they had dealt with. They couldn't lose. Goki just thought Zenki was late. Osborne said that if she was worried, she should just say so while he drew. He asked Goki to hold on a little longer. The old man drew a huge magic circle on the ground. Having drawn the last line, he said with a sigh that he had finished his work. After this, he stood in the center of the circle and began the ritual of rebirth. Zenki still hadn't returned and Goki was very angry about it. Finally, a huge and powerful figure of a demon appeared on the horizon. Zenki apologized for being late. He felt sorry. Goki asked him what took him so long and Zenki replied that the two were stronger than he thought. Zenki asked if Osborne was hurt. The old man advised him to ask Goki about it, and he redirected the question to the girl. She replied that if they had time for stupidity, let them beat the crap out of everyone in the area. That's all Zenki was good for. Zenki chuckled and quickly dealt with all the monsters standing hesitantly in the distance. Looking indifferently at the scattered corpses of the enemies, Goki said that Zenki was slow in everything, and the old man decided to say goodbye to them now that everything was fine. Osborne expressed his regret, because if he were a little younger, they could have fooled around even longer. Goki admitted that she felt very refreshed and no longer needed to bow to the warriors and officials of the capital. The old man said with regret that they had lived in the mountains for a very long time because of him. And now he had been caught spreading dubious mysticism. Goki exclaimed that this was no laughing matter. He was betrayed by his first student, so he should be angry at him and sad. Osborne paused and told Goki not to fight with Zenki after he left. Goki asked the old man to stop talking nonsense since they were still demons. Osborne scratched his beard thoughtfully and said that compared to people, beautiful demons tell the truth to their faces. Zenki added that compared to people, they are like cute children. Goki didn't like that he called demons children because they attack people when they come down from the mountain. Osborne asked them not to kill the demons because they can still get along with people. Unlike other demons, they do not need to kill to survive. This knowledge is something only they can pass on to other demons. They are the only ones who can teach them this. Osborne looked solemnly at his comrades. Goki said that he was too honest. They just learned an easier way to live than killing people. Zenki added that it was all thanks to him, Osborne. The old man smiled and, saying goodbye to them, admitted that he had enjoyed spending time with them. Goki bowed her head respectfully and said goodbye to Osborne. She said that the time spent with him was the most tiring of all. The old man asked them to raise their heads and said that his weakening power had disrupted the demon's leadership, but he was confident that they could fix everything. Zenki asked Osborne to trust him. The old man apologized for leaving them in charge, but Goki told him not to worry about it. He could safely leave everything else to them. Osborne's figure, standing in the center of the magic circle, was illuminated by a bright light. Zenki and Goki stood respectfully to the side and stared at the old man. Zenki exclaimed that he would look forward to seeing him, Yakuozuna, his human friend. Osborne promised Zenki and Goki that they would definitely meet. The magic circle turned into an ocean of raging flames, and Osborne disappeared into its depths. Then many years passed. In another world, two people were beating one. He was only defending himself, trying to avoid getting hit in the face with painful blows. It was raining, and he was sitting on the roof of the school building, beaten and humiliated. His things were lying nearby. An open briefcase and documents that had fallen out of it with an ID in the name of Yankee Cameron. Yankee was beaten very badly, but that was not all. The guys wanted to continue. They decided to lock him on the roof. Having called him a man without abilities, the guys promised to see him again. Yankee sat by the fence in the rain and felt very bad. He recalled what these hooligans had told him. Among other things, they had called him an idiot. He didn't even want to argue with them about being an idiot. because his grades were as bad as they could be. Yankee went to one of the best preparatory schools in the prefecture, but the requirements there were very high. He wanted to live up to his parents' expectations, so he studied hard since childhood and somehow got in here. And in the end, he studies at a prestigious school surrounded by geniuses. So his grades were barely above the red mark, no matter how hard he tried, but there is a limit to his capabilities. And yet, somehow he moved up to the next grade with the rest, his classmates looking at him askance and making fun of him, saying that he is here thanks to his parents. Yankee tried to live up to his parents' expectations, but he couldn't jump above his head, and it was very hard for him, and they still placed an unbearable burden on him. Yankee put his hand in his pocket and pulled out his phone to check the time. However, he couldn't do it. The phone did not turn on, although this model was waterproof. Yankee threw the phone at his feet in annoyance. The young man stood in the pouring rain and didn't know what to do. He could not live up to his parents' expectations, even though he tried his best. They laugh at him and make fun of him every day. He can't even go home because the door is locked. And besides, he's all wet. Maybe he should jump down from here. Yankee walked up to the chain-link fence and placed his hands on it, wondering if it would make him feel better if he jumped down. But he decided that this could not be done. It was already going beyond all bounds. A blinding flash of lightning split the darkening sky, and Yankee tried to kick the door down, but it didn't work. And he lay down exhausted on the roof, exposing his weakened body to the streams of falling water. The sky flared again. Yankee saw a fireball in front of him, which, without disappearing, hung over the roof. It was not a dream. Something otherworldly was sparkling and flashing before him. Yankee had a bad feeling about this. He tried to open the door again, frantically tugging at the handle. Yankee did this until he broke it off. He was afraid to look back at that fireball. It seemed to him that there was something there. Yankee understood that he needed to get out of here. With his last strength, he managed to knock down the door leaves and fell on the other side. All he had to do was go down the stairs and find the exit. Yankee felt much better after realizing that he had a chance to get out. But he wanted to see what was going on the roof with this mysterious fireball. He immediately regretted doing it. There was something small and creepy there. In the moonlight, all his ugliness was visible. The creature made strange, disgusting sounds and looked straight at him with a burning gaze. This terrible creature made aggressive sounds. The hair on Yankee's head stood on end. He started running away as fast as he could. It was very slippery because the young man was completely soaked in the rain, and the monster, moving like a spider, quickly followed him on four legs. Yankee was in a panic. He didn't know what to do or where to run. He saw an iron door and decided to hide behind it. Entering the small room, he locked the door with a bolt. The young man hoped that this would delay the monster, even if only for a short time. Immediately, the door began to shake under the monster's powerful blows. Yankee looked out the peephole and was once again convinced that it was not a human who was pursuing him. Yankee realized that the door was a weak defense against such a monster. He realized that sooner or later the door would be broken down. Inside the room, he began to look around for some suitable weapon, but there was nothing there except a broom, a dustpan, and a bucket with a mop. Yankee had no choice but to arm himself with a mop. Suddenly, the young man noticed that the monster had crawled through a small hole in the door, which he had managed to break through. Luckily, it was so small that the animal got stuck there. For Yankee, this was his only chance. He threw his makeshift weapon on the floor and ran away. Yankee hoped that it would be a dream, but he decided to go down to the floor below. He was in such a hurry that he slipped on the stairs and flew down. He landed painfully on the landing of the lower floor, hitting his foot. Yankee, wincing in pain, examined his leg, thinking that he had broken it when he fell. The young man raised himself and carefully moved his sore leg. Everything seemed to be in order. It was probably a bruise or a strain, but either way, he needed to move on. He limped down the stairs and thought that it was probably a dream after all, because such horror could not happen in reality. Finally, Yankee saw the exit and headed towards it. He had already thought that he was saved when a bony and clawed hand firmly grabbed his shoulder. The long arm of the monster pulled him towards itself. Yankee screamed piercingly in fear, and the monster stared at him with terrible eyes baring its toothy mouth. Yankee tore off his boot, preparing to defend himself from the approaching monster. However, with incredible speed and dexterity, he bit his hand with his sharp teeth. Yankee tried to throw the monster away, grabbing it with his other hand. Here the young man felt severe pain and dizziness. The creature suddenly recoiled, but something was wrong. The blue glow that appeared above Yankee's head caught the monster's attention. He was surprised to feel something like freshness flow into his body. The blue glow emanating from Yankee's body visibly alarmed the monster. He squeaked in alarm as some of the strange glow engulfed his misshapen little body. Only now Yankee saw with horror that this creature had bitten off his hand. Blood flowed profusely from the wound, and this monster had mutilated his body. Yankee took a stack of papers out of his pocket with his healthy hand and decided that if he tied them together, it would be enough to stop the bleeding. Unexpectedly and against his will, Yankee uttered a curse and called the creature a lesser demon. He asked the monster if he had forgotten who he was. The demon pricked up his ears and squealed loudly. Yankee's lips moved involuntarily, and he heard his own voice say that it seemed no one here remembered him. Yankee turned to the monster and said that his appearance brought back memories, but why was he so agitated and scared? Yankee thought he was in trouble and that this monster was too hostile. It seemed to him that this demon was like an eagle hunting for prey. Yankee held out the palm of his healthy hand and called for the monster to come to him, and he would deal with it as usual. The creature aggressively rushed at the young man. Yankee deftly got out of the monster's line of attack. Turning over in the air, he found himself above the beast. With his healthy hand, he pressed the monster's head to the floor, and then delivered a powerful blow from which the beast flew back to the wall where he made a large hole. Yankee asked the monster if he finally remembered who he was. The young man was surprised that this beast was still standing on its feet. Usually the lower demons are very cowardly, but what happened to this one? He could still move and was determined to fight, so what happened to him? The demon jumped on Yankee once again. The young man kicked him back with all his might. Yankee was then surprised that he was so exhausted by a simple lower demon, but he was still a weak demon. Yankee's new counterattack threw the monster back several meters. Osborne exclaimed that he never thought that his future body would be so weak. He never expected this. But even so, it's incredibly fun. The creature did not stop attacking. Yankee did not spare the animal, beating it with particular pleasure. Finally, the lower demon calmed down. Yankee ironically apologized to the monster and delivered a fatal finishing blow with magic. The demon opened his mouth in a silent scream. Yankee looked with satisfaction at the death of the lower demon, and Osborne decided that while he was gone, something had clearly happened here. The normal color of the soul is blue, but the color of this demon's soul is purple. He felt something ominous about it. Osborne thought sadly about where his stars, Zenki and Goki, were now. But most of all, one thing bothered him. Where was he? Yankee woke up and, throwing off the blanket, screamed loudly. He was happy to see that he was in his own room, but he had a terrible nightmare. Yankee shuddered as he recalled the monster that had torn off his arm. The young man looked down and sighed with relief, realizing that his hand was in place and healthy. Yankee was glad that this horror was just a dream, but it was quite realistic. His brother entered the room, worried by his screaming, and asked what had happened to him. Then he calmed down after hearing Yankee's explanation. At breakfast, he told him that Yankee was already a senior in high school, but still continued to scream from nightmares. Father Kevin advised Yankee to be more restrained. Brother Christopher noted that it was not Yankee's fault. After all, people do not choose their dreams. They appear on their own. His sister Zinnia told Yankee that he had scared her with his scream this morning. She asked him sarcastically if his throat hurt now. Yankee replied that he had nightmares because of his poor results on the mock exam. His father noticed that with such a certificate, he would not be able to enter the second year of school, and he had already told him so many times to show better results. Christopher asked his father not to put pressure on Yankee. Wouldn't it be better if Yankee found something he liked, because nowadays grades don't decide everything? Kevin, taking a sip from his cup of tea, remarked that when he found the one, then his grades would be higher. The world judges people only by their results. Then the father asked Yankee where he was last night. He seemed to come home very late. Yankee actually had no memory of how he even got home yesterday. Kevin sighed heavily and told his son that if he wanted to go out at night, he had to get his grades up first. Christopher reassured his brother and told him not to worry. He would soon find exactly what he was good at. Today, there are many people who make a living online, but the father did not support his eldest son and said that working on the internet is not work. These people are the kind of people who live on luck alone. But Zinnia disagreed with her father and said that this was a prejudice. Yankee felt terribly tired and bored. Suddenly, the sounds that the monster made in his nightmare appeared in his head. However, he shook his head, getting rid of the intrusive sounds, and went to school. Yankee decided that at school he would find out whether it was a dream or not. At that moment, someone put a hand on his shoulder. It was his tormentor, Idris. He pretended to be surprised that Yankee came to school, since he wouldn't be able to understand the topic of the lesson anyway. Then Idris punched Yankee hard in the stomach. He was surrounded by Idris's friends. Idris asked Yankee how he managed to get out of the roof since he locked the door. Did he really break it down, although he would never believe it? Yankee said that he was in a lot of pain. Idris mockingly said that he had simply said hello to him in the morning. He told his friends and Yankee to go to the roof. If he really broke down the door, the teacher would find out quickly, and then the parents would be called. Yankee asked not to involve his parents. He was afraid that if his parents found out that he was being bullied, they would say that it was his own fault. Then he will have no place in his own home. Yankee couldn't figure out what to do next. Osborne, inside the body of this schoolboy, muttered that it was stupid to behave like that. Idris asked Yankee how he managed to get out through the locked door. Idris and his friends decided to check what happened to the doors on the roof. Pushed by his tormentors, Yankee obediently walked with them and thought that if that dream came true, then something even more serious would happen. The school children entered the school building and began to climb the stairs to the roof. When they did not rise, Idris told Yankee that this was too much, and the young man, looking at the broken door of the closet, realized that it was not a dream. It turns out that some monster had destroyed everything here. The boys decided that Yankee had gone crazy. For some reason, he damaged the cabinets. Idris nevertheless suggested going higher and going onto the roof. Yankee thought that these idiots wanted to lock him there again. Suddenly, he heard someone's voice in his head again, telling him that Yankee was pathetic, and he mentally replied that he knew nothing about him. On the last landing, his classmates were in for a shock. The door to the roof was torn off its hinges, and Idris asked Yankee what he had done here yesterday. Without waiting for an answer, he hit him in the face. Yankee fell down and protested modestly, but Idris was determined to get an intelligible answer. Yankee's tormentors could not believe that this was the work of such a worthless person as this weakling. Idris's friends warned Yankee that if all this came to light, he could be expelled from school. Yankee exclaimed that it was not him at all. Idris said with concern that this had gone too far and that they too could come under attack. At the slightest thing, their heads will fly too. Maybe that's what Yankee wanted? Idris called Yankee a swear word and clenched his fists. He asked the young man if he really wanted to wipe their noses. Idris's friends lifted Yankee to his feet and brought him to their leader. Yankee asked them if he could have done this alone. Idris wanted to hit Yankee in the face, but suddenly he and his friends flew in different directions. Unexpectedly, Yankee fought back against his offenders for the first time. The hooligans recovered from their shock and rushed to attack Yankee, who did not want to fight at all. But against his will, he began to skillfully beat his executioners. They were in a lot of pain and didn't understand what had happened to this quiet guy. Wiping the blood from his face, one of the hooligans asked Yankee what he had done to him. The young man replied that it was not he who did this, but a voice inside Yankee's head asked him to rely on it. Iris and her friends rushed at Yankee again, not believing that what was happening was real. Yankee decided that it was all useless, but a voice in his head told him that he was a fool, and if he didn't want to be bullied, he needed to hit back. Yankee involuntarily followed Osborne's advice and knocked out his closest enemy. Osborne, meanwhile, advised Yankee, in order not to kill anyone, to lightly hit the throat, and this would stop the enemy. Osborne added that it was they who attacked Yankee, and if he fights back, then everything will be deserved. Idris still didn't calm down and wanted to kick Yankee. However, he received a counter-punch to the jaw. Yankee shouted to his invisible interlocutor to stop. However, he involuntarily struck Idris again. This time, Idris asked to stop the fight. He was lying on the roof in a daze. Yankee held him by the collar, and he begged him to stop beating him. Yankee thought it was wise to stop the fight, but Osborne called him an idiot and asked him to hide his squeaky voice. Yankee involuntarily knocked out Idris with the finishing blow. The friends of the executioner leader quickly left the roof, promising to meet with Yankee again. Osborne noted that all losers in any world are the same. He also told Yankee that it seemed that he would not be able to control his body for long. Wouldn't it have been easier for the Lord to be so surprised, for he had the power to rule over those who oppressed him? Yankee exclaimed with annoyance that tomorrow they would mock him again, and Osborne advised him not to cry. Idris struggled to his feet and told Yankee that he would not get away with this. Osborne remarked that it was sad to be thrown out by his own friends, and Yankee asked Idris if he was okay. Idris felt that Yankee was making fun of him. At this moment, a terrible bolt of lightning flashed across the completely cloudless sky. Nobody could understand what it was. Only Osborne knew this, and he watched what was happening through Yankee's eyes. Yankee and Idris looked up in bewilderment at the fireball hanging above the roof. Osborne told Yankee that the same thing was happening now as last night. It seemed that demons were attracted to his weak soul. A look of fear appeared on Idris's battered face. Osborne asked Yankee to give him control over his body if he didn't want to lose his arm again. Hadn't it dawned on him yet that the dream he had seen wasn't him at all? It was he, Osborne, who had saved him last night. Yankee finally became convinced that the demon from the dream was real. Osborne told the boy that if he understood everything, he must let him figure it out. Otherwise, he and his bully friend would die. The ball, crackling like an electric charge, descended and was almost at the height of schoolchildren. And Idris asked Yankee what it was, and he replied that he himself did not really understand it yet. Osborne told Yankee that it turned out the demons weren't targeting him, but they had broken the seal. He, addressing the demon, said that he would not allow him to feast on human souls, and Yankee asked him to give him control of his body. Meanwhile, the ball landed on the roof and a demon materialized from it with a club in his hands. Yankee looked tensely at this dangerous monster. Idris looked at this phenomenon with horror. The red demon was huge and scary with horns and red skin. Osborne muttered that they had their eye on his flesh after all. The red demon swung his club and approached Idris. His blow would have undoubtedly killed him, but Yankee pushed the schoolboy away, thereby saving his life. Osborne disapprovingly told him that he was crazy to try to confront the red demon with such a body. His blow with the baton almost caused the roof of the building to collapse. Osborne told Yankee that it was not only stupid, but even pathetic to help those who had treated him badly. Yankee asked Osborne for help, and he strongly recommended that he lend him his body. The young man replied that he didn't mind, as long as he saved them. Yankee's fists became filled with enormous power. Osborne praised Yankee for his determination. Yankee approached the monster and said that, as he promised, he would cleanse this demon. The red demon screamed as if some kind of horror had overtaken him. He rushed away from Yankee's gaze. Yankee said that this was the result of divine power. Osborne was pleased that there was so much strength in the young body. However, the red demon, swinging his club, rushed at his opponent again. Yankee deftly dodged a high-jumping strike. The young man decided that he was in a dream again, because he was seeing all this with his own eyes. However, pain and fear could not be so real in a dream, although his brain could not believe that the monster could be real. Besides, could he run through the air in real life? Osborne asked him if people in this era don't know about God's steps. He explained to an astonished Yankee that it was a technique of using anything as a fulcrum to ride his wave with divine footwork. Osborne asked Yankee if he was conscious. Now he is confronted by someone who is many times superior to him. If he gave up his consciousness, then his Osborne soul could absorb him. The young man borrowed his body last night, but he didn't disappear. So he thought about that possibility, but still, who is Yankee? The boy replied that he was an ordinary schoolboy, Yankee Cameron, and Osborne stated that he probably had many connections with him. Yankee asked him his name, and he agreed to tell him. Yankee heard the name people called him Osborne. The young man knew that he had practiced Shugendo a long time ago, a great man who subdued many evil spirits with 2 demons. He is so famous that he is mentioned in many historical stories and is sometimes the hero of films and books. But Osborne lived 1,000 years ago. Could this really be him? The red demon raised his club, preparing for another attack. Yankee looked at him and declared that it was now his turn. Osborne asked Yankee to let him deal with this tormenting demon first. This is a demon from hell who tortures sinners. Yankee replied that he had done nothing wrong, but Osborne said that he didn't care. He would sweep away anyone who stood in his way. The young man asked what he wanted to do, and Osborne replied that, of course, he would fight. Does he know the history of demons? They need to be put in their place by brute force. After these words, Osborne, using Yankee's body, dealt the red demon a strong blow to the head. He finally began to get used to this schoolboy's body. The red demon suddenly spoke. Realizing the movement and strength of this man, he directly asked him if he was Osborne. Yankee asked him if he was familiar with this red demon, and Osborne replied that one could say so. At this time, the red demon dealt Yankee a powerful blow, which threw him into the fence. He hung on her, breathing deeply. The red demon realized that Osborne was still unable to regain his strength and was now quite weak. Osborne actually didn't just not regain his strength, but the fact is that Yankee's body was weak. Osborne asked Yankee not to worry. Such an injury on his body would heal quickly. He must get used to such injuries, it will soon become commonplace. Osborne told the approaching red demon that he was proud of his power. But why didn't he want to show it to him? Or did he chicken out at the sight of this skinny guy? The demon growled indignantly. He grabbed Idris with his paw, lifting him up, and ordered Osborne to stay put. He promised to break the schoolboy's neck if he even moved. Yankee looked with alarm and pity at Idris, who was barely breathing. The situation seemed critical. Yankee barely managed to avoid the red demon's blow. Osborne told him that no one would think of saving this Idris. His head was more important to him. The demon exclaimed in anger that Osborne was not the guardian of the people at all. Yankee muttered that he had said nothing of the sort. He looked closely at the demon, considering his options. He never tried to protect people. It seems like he, like yesterday, is being controlled by someone. So, if we return his mind, everything will end? Osborne strongly doubted this. Osborne said that first they must find out who is controlling them and kill him. Yankee replied that this was not the way to do things, and Osborne reminded them that they had already killed him the night before. Why he tries to help those who oppress him is more than strange, and Yankee asked Osborne who killed him yesterday. Osborne replied that it seemed like that creature had bitten off one of his hands, so it had entered his body. But for some reason he was resurrected. Now they share one vessel. Osborne asked Yankee what he had been doing all his life and why his body was so weak. The young man proudly replied that he had been studying all his life. The red demon kept telling Osborne not to move, otherwise he would kill the hostage. Osborne reiterated that he did not remember ever calling himself a keeper of the people. The demon asked him if he was okay with killing Idris, and Osborne said that if he wanted to, then let him do so. He had no pity for such scum. Idris, with a trembling voice, turned to Yankee and asked him to save him. He couldn't leave him in such a situation. Yankee, in turn, asked Osborne to save him, but he replied that this man was to blame himself. It was karma, and let him die. The red demon said that he would kill this schoolboy. If he doesn't believe it, then let him see for himself. Yankee decided that Idris had to be saved at any cost. He rushed towards the demon with all his might. Yankee was surprised that he could control his body despite Osborne's presence within it. The red demon's huge fingers gradually squeezed Idris's neck. Osborne desperately warned Yankee that it was a trap and he should not go in there. Yankee realized this too late. The demon attacked him in close combat. It was a very strong attack. However, Yankee reflected it. Now he stood in front of the red demon, boldly looking into his fiery eyes. Yankee had paper cards in his hands that appeared out of nowhere. The demon watched his opponent carefully. He tossed the hostage aside and turned his attention to Yankee. He asked the demon if he would allow him to perform a certain action. The red demon's hands lay at his feet. Osborne realized that someone had cast a spell on this demon. The red demon stared at his bleeding wounds in confusion and repeated some meaningless words. Yankee, watching him, decided that something was wrong here. The demon continued to fight. He rushed forward like a tank with a furious cry. Osborne thought that it was not just about the breed of this demon. This is a matter of daily concern. The red demon with restored arms rushed at Yankee with terrible force. While dodging the red demon's powerful attacks, Osborne told Yankee that his flesh was very weak and therefore he was starting to get tired. The demon pressed them against the fence. Things were starting to get serious. It seemed that the powers of this monster were endless. The red demon stared blankly at the crater left by his club. Yankee miraculously disappeared from his sight, and Yankee, moving through the air, found himself behind the monster, and in his hands he held a burning paper card. Osborne did have magic after all. He cut the demon card in half from top to bottom, like a saw. The two halves of his body slowly began to fall apart. Yankee threw away the used card and said that he needed to get some sleep, and now he would finally be able to talk. The red demon exploded into purple flames. This greatly surprised both Osborne and Yankee, and the soul of the tormentor was red. Yankee had never seen this. Osborne said that it was impossible to see them without preparation, and Yankee asked why he could see her. Osborne explained that he sees her through his eyes. Yankee was deep in thought. Osborne suggested that demon souls were created by someone. Demons are cowardly by nature, and after a hard battle, they drink away their worries and fears. Demons can suddenly attack people, even if they are tormentors who punish for evildoing. They were deceived into turning against humans. Someone must have made contact with them. Yankee asked Osborne in surprise how he knew all this, and he replied that it was more important to know for what purpose the spell was cast on him. Of course, it was a real mystery. A large ball of mana formed in Yankee's hand. Osborne was drawn to the red demon's hand lying on the roof. Yankee saw that this hand began to become covered with paper. Osborne explained that he made the paper by hand in a separate space because it was inconvenient to carry around. When the young man asked about space, Osborne replied that he would tell him about it someday. But for now, he should think that he had plenty of room for luggage at hand. Yankee was almost certain that he had gone crazy. He couldn't get his head around how the severed hand had instantly been wrapped in that thick paper. Yankee looked at this in surprise. The mana from his hand was waning and enveloping this hand. She became fatter and fatter. For Yankee, it was pure magic. Finally, Osborne completed his magical ritual. In the blink of an eye, Osborne's creation disappeared. The young man asked where the hand had gone, and Osborne replied that his flesh was too weak and he decided to keep the demon's hand. It might come in handy someday. Osborne advised Yankee to work on his body. Otherwise, he would only become stronger on his deathbed. The young man asked how to understand him. At this time, Idris came to his senses and stared at Yankee with an absent-minded gaze. He asked the young man what he had done here and what it was. Osborne told him to shut up, and Yankee asked him not to talk like that. Osborne indignantly asked him how one could grieve for such a person. He was either an idiot or lying. Yankee asked him not to scare the boy. Osborne in turn asked if he was the one who wanted to jump from this roof last night. Osborne said disapprovingly that his new body was going to commit suicide because of a mere mortal. Yankee had nothing to say in response this time. Idris's friends peered cautiously around the corner. Yankee approached Idris decisively. Yankee asked Osborne what he was doing, and he replied that the guy knew too much now. Osborne pulled out a paper card, but Yankee didn't have time to say anything. The hand belonging to Yankee lightly flicked the card onto Idris's forehead. The guy flew back a whole meter from this light click. He lay on his back and did not move. Osborne was a magician after all. He ordered Idris to forget everything.